fast, but greetings, my fellow tarnished. It seems grace doth have led you here to my review of Elden Ring. So this is an unscripted review. Sorry, it's not one of my big, full, edity reviews, but it's just one of those things that happens. Just so you know, this is basically a zero spoiler review. The footage you're seeing on the screen right now is like really just the starting area. Like pretty much just the stuff that we were able to see in the network test. No like big major bosses or story, anything like that. Keeping it super duper simple because if you want to see more, you can go see more or play it or watch the trailers or whatever. Keeping this real simple. Mainly me just wandering around and fighting stuff, you know? Also, full disclosure, I have not completed the game. Normally I like to beat a game before I do a review, but trust me when I say I have played a lot of it. I've been playing a whole lot, and I feel that I've played more than enough to tell the overall quality of the game. I've explored, most of the map, dozens of hours of it. Yeah, it's been enough. So a little about me, the only FromSoft game that I have played is Dark Souls. Played it on my Switch. That's the one and only. It was my first one. It was my only one. It's a little bit funny to go from what was essentially the first one that really kickstarted the series. Now I'm just playing the newest one. And I have been dying to play another one because I loved Dark Souls. I felt that there was a lot of stuff that was not as great about it as most people do. But overall it was a very magical experience, and I've really wanted to have another experience like that, but I haven't yet because it's very intimidating because these are very big games, take a lot of time. I'm not super good at playing them, so they're really hard. But here I am doing this, and forgive me if I say something dumb, because I haven't played the games, because if you're like, oh, well, that was in the last game, and you think it's cool, just, yeah, chill, man. So, Elden Ring, the back-of-the-box hook. It's a FromSoft Souls-style game, but open world. It's the first big open world one of these. And this is like Breath of the Wild style. It is truly open. There are no you'll load if you're teleporting or something, but for the most part, you can run from one end to the other. No loading zones. It's all one giant seamless world. This means that the game is a lot less linear. It's way open. You can really go wherever you want, and that sense of freedom is incredible. Playing the style of game like I did in Dark Souls, except it's big and open and I can just go off and kind of make my own adventure. It is an absolute thrill. I can pick and choose where I want to be, what I want to be doing, and if I ever want to, I ever find myself in a later game area with bad guys that are going to destroy me, it's just a lot of fun because then everything that I can accomplish, I feel like I'm getting away with it, I feel like I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be, so it's just I can kind of tailor the difficulty at any time, depending on my mood, what I want to be doing. I can just go wherever I want to. I want to go fight hard guys over here, easy guys over here. It's great. And I know a lot of people were a little bit nervous about the world design because, the other games were a little bit more linear. Each game is different. But they crafted very purposeful experiences, and there's always the worry that if you turn something into an open world experience, you're gonna lose some of that really just nice, refined kind of design. And at least from where I'm standing, it's every bit as interesting as Dark Souls was, and more. Sure, you've got your big open areas, your big fields, and, you can go wherever you want, but then, you've got more than enough of these really great little intricately designed areas, because when you're traveling around the world, you never know what you're going to find. It's just like the real world, oh, I'm on this big open plain and go over this bridge, but then oh, hey, what's under the bridge? And then that could lead to a whole entire path of stuff. It could lead to a dungeon or some kind of cave or something. And there are so many castles and structures, so you get every single bit of that old style world design. It's the best of both worlds. You get all of that, and then you also get the big free roam areas. It's all super, just very natural. And the world is unfathomably huge. It is so massive, and it's one of those things where if you see it, you can go to it. And
you see this stuff towering up in the distance at all times, and it's this constant sense of just this adventurous sense where it's like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna fight the stuff in there. You're seeing it all the time. And another worry with like open world design is like, is it gonna be really empty? No, this world is huge, but it's also super dense. I mean, unlimited things to kill, secrets to find, and it's a Souls style game, so just items all over the place, looting dead bodies and things all over, and you never know what you're gonna find, and if you're just gonna casually pick up something that completely changes like how you play and makes you so much more powerful. Like, it's so fun. Always so much to do. And then now, gathering resources is a way bigger thing. You got wild animals and stuff everywhere, and you've got crafting now, so you can be making arrows and salves and whatnot. So, between collecting stuff, gathering items, beating bad guys, never run out of stuff to do. Oh, and one of my favorite things, it's mini dungeons. This world has tons and tons of these little mini dungeons, and you never know where or when you're gonna find one. You turn a corner and you go, hey, look, a cave, or hey, look, a door, and you go inside, and there's just a whole entire little self-contained dungeon in there, and you move through and you beat bad guys, and sometimes there's like these mysteries. Sometimes you have to find a way to get to the actual deeper part of the dungeon. You think that you're done, but then you're like, hey, what's that over there? And then you're like, no, that's the real ending over here. It's so cool. There's so many different kinds, and you get items, and there's always like a boss at the end. There's so many different bosses. I just love these little dungeons. And this is yet another thing that a lot of people worried about because they were used to the very intricately designed areas and all that stuff. And then you have something like Breath of the Wild where it's like, oh, we have these mini dungeons, but the game is mostly mini dungeons, so that's a big issue for some people. But again, no, there are tons of these mini dungeons, but then there are tons of other places like castles, these massive legacy style dungeons that will take you forever to get through. And just the scope of some of these places is crazy. I really cannot stress enough how it's just the best of both worlds. You get everything. You get your cake and eat it too. Okay, so let's talk about the combat. It is great. It feels incredibly good. It's a good deal faster than Dark Souls, and I know a lot of, especially Sekiro and stuff. The combat has been getting a little bit faster over the years. I don't know how it compares to the other games, but it is a good deal faster than Dark Souls. And this is good because I really feel like this is going to appeal to a lot more people. It is once again best of both worlds, where you still have that kind of methodical style of combat. It's still the same thing that everybody liked about the series, but just a little bit more refined, a little bit faster, a little bit more accessible, and less likely to completely turn a person off to the game after just picking it up and playing with it for 10 seconds, like I almost did with Dark Souls. It's also going to be more appealing because it feels a lot more forgiving, it encourages aggression a little bit more. Dark Souls to me felt a lot more like, I cannot take any chances here. That's how I win, is just wait for my opening. But there are more opportunities in this game to just kind of press the attack a little bit more. And it's not too much more. It doesn't mean you can just cheese your way through everything. But just enough more to make the combat just feel that much better and more fun to do. And the whole thing is just more refined. It just feels really good. And there's so many different ways to fight. And I know this is a really big thing about all of these games in general. So many different potential builds, and even non-magic players now have some fun abilities and stuff they can use. All these different weapons and shields and stuff have their own skills that you can use, and you've got Ashes of War, which you can use to augment all of your armaments. And you've got these spirits that you can summon in battle. And so there's so many different options. And of course, one of the reasons the combat is so good is just the enemies and how they're designed. Like I said before, there were some things about Dark Souls that I felt were a little less good. I know everyone is just gonna tell me to get good, that was my problem, but it felt to me like there were plenty of boss battles that were just kind of not fair, or just challenging in a way that's not really fun. It's just frustrating and kind of just encouraged me to cheese them. But just not here. I've played so much of this game. I've fought so many bosses and bad guys and everything. none of them felt unfair. None of them made me go, just what's the point? That's just stupid. You know, like absolutely none of them. They're all completely fair. They're all super duper fun. There's always a solution. I can always see what the answer is. I just have to get good enough to do it. And that's very encouraging and very empowering. And if I do come across something, it hasn't happened too many times yet, but if I do come across a thing that's just like, this is too strong, I'm just not going to do it until my stats are a little bit better, I will come back later. That is an option because of the open world. There are other guys to go fight. I can go anywhere I want. You know, I'm not like roadblocked on this one boss and I can't do anything until I get past it. No, just go off and do something else for another 20 hours or something and then come back later. And speaking of difficulty, I would say that yes, this game is a good amount easier than Dark Souls was, and I know that's gonna get a lot of people really freaked out. They don't want them to ruin the series, make it too easy, but like, no, it is only easier in in my opinion, all of the best ways. All ways that are just gonna make it more appealing to people. Like enemies, even the smallest enemies can take you out if you're not careful, because they are all just as aggressive and deadly as ever, you know? Tiny guys can gang up on you and stun lock you and kill you like, just like nothing. It's still a hard game. The guys are still super duper hard. But it seems to me that most of them just have less HP on average. And this to me is a really great improvement because, like I said, the game wants me to be a little bit more aggressive sometimes. This lets me kind of take risks to kind of close in and just start going crazy on a thing and, you know, and beat it and not get just punished for taking that risk. Sometimes I do, but not every time, and that's what feels good. And this is just better for a big, gigantic open world game with tons and tons and tons of enemies to fight because it would be too much of a slog. I mean, even Dark Souls did, even though it was a little more linear, it still did sometimes feel a little overwhelming to me sometimes, how even like lower enemies are just a little bit too hard to take out. Like, you know, but open world, I'm running around all over the place. It's fun to be just kind of killing them in passing. It just works a lot better. Even the bosses, even really, really hard bosses, I just kind of feel like their health bars go down a little bit faster. I could be totally wrong on this. But that's what it feels like to me. It's like, I don't want to feel like I'm chipping away at this giant thing, even when I've like figured out how to beat it, but it still just takes so long that eventually, yes, I'm gonna make a mistake and lose and have to start all over, you know? But here, like, I've basically never fought anything that felt like, oh, when is this thing gonna die? Please, you know, like, it seems like they just have lower HP and it just makes for a more fluid and fun experience. And at least in the case of smaller enemies, like, I'm sure that they were aware of this and they did that on purpose so it would be more fun to travel around. And in fact, like, one really cool new thing is when you defeat a group of enemies, it will refill some of your, you know, your healing flasks. Just so you don't have to like keep returning to sites of grace to fill up your flask. It gives it this nice little flow. You can just kind of keep going from one area to the next and you don't have to constantly stop to get new health stuff. Okay, so, big thing. The reason I was sold on this game when I played the network test, because I wasn't, you know, I did want to play it, it was really cool, but I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to get into it, and that's because the worst part about Dark Souls was the boss runbacks. Loved fighting hard bosses, loved all the hard stuff, but like spending entire minutes to run back to a boss just to lose in the first set, it was so beyond frustrating. It was a 70-hour playthrough because I'm terrible. Probably 30 or 40 of those hours just running back to bosses, and that's garbage. It's garbage to me. And I know people have different opinions on it. They like the tension that it builds, but I don't like it. And honestly, I think most people are, at least a lot of people, are probably going to be the same way that I am. This is an accessibility thing. This is a broad appeal thing, and they have fixed that so well. Boss runbacks are just about nothing. Like, the longest I ever have to run to something is like 20, 30 seconds, and that's on the upper end. Usually you've got just a save point, a checkpoint of some kind to make it just easy, because I don't mind fighting a boss 100 times if I have to, as long as I can just keep trying. And I have that, and I'm so happy. Like, that one thing makes this game okay for me. And that's the one reason it's one of the reasons I haven't played the other Souls games, because I'm too scared of the lost time with those runbacks, and it's just a thing of the past here. And again, I think a lot of this is because it's open world. It would be a little bit too much to make people ride across the landscape, so now you have all these sites of grace all over the place, almost too many sometimes. You're trying to go through a scary area and you're like, another one? Come on. It's pretty funny. But then you've got, little checkpoint things even beyond the sites of grace. You can respawn at them. It's great. Like, the game is still so hard. Just some of these bosses are so just like soul-crushingly hard. But I don't mind. Now it's just fun. It is only fun to fight them now for me. Okay, so let's get to the visuals. The enemies are just as good as ever. Every FromSoft game always just has the best enemy designs. I mean, a significant percentage of my enjoyment with these games is just seeing the monsters, is just turning the corner and being like, whoa, what is that? I gotta fight that? It attacks like this? That's crazy. And the game does not disappoint. Just all sorts of crazy, incredible monsters. They look incredible. They're animated incredibly. They're a joy to fight. They're a joy to look at. What can I say? They're just incredible. But you want to talk about visuals. It's everything. It's the landscape. It is breathtaking. Positively breathtaking. There is no doubt in my mind that this is the single most beautiful game I've ever played. Just hands down. This world it's enchanting. The sheer scope of the environment, just the size of some of this stuff. I could just stammer about it for an hour. Just look at it. It's incredible. And it's not even just like, oh, the graphics are so good. It's like, it's the design. It's the world design itself. It's so big, but it's so intricately designed. It's so realistic and yet fantastical. I believe that it's real, even though it just looks so vibrant and incredible, and just the rock designs and just everything. It's breathtaking, and I've been playing it on my Series X, so like resolution is super high, 4K, maybe a little under 4K because I've got it on performance mode, but it's just the image is so crisp. I mean, just like really, like playing it at a super high resolution makes all the difference. I can be sitting in front of my TV and it's like I'm looking through a window, and there's just so much detail in the environment. Everything looks so sharp and beautiful. It's like I'm there. Like I said, though, I really could go on about that forever, and I wouldn't even be saying anything. I really would just be like, oh man, that's amazing, right? That's cool. So I will move on. Some final thoughts. This game is way better at explaining itself to new players. It is way easier to figure out than Dark Souls was. I spent hours on just forums and guides and stuff to figure out some of the basic concepts of Dark Souls. But this explains everything pretty well. There's still some stuff that I don't quite get, but I probably would get if I had played more of these games. And, but like, it's obviously easy enough to figure out, because even though I can't figure out some of it, I've still played a lot of the game, and there are no guides. The game isn't out yet at the time of this recording, so there aren't a bunch of guides for me to look at, and yet it's still working. So it's so much more accessible in that way. And like, just a lot of things have been just like streamlined. You can summon now without all this weird, just convoluted humanity and kindling and all this stuff. No, forget that. If I want to summon an NPC to help fight with me, I just do it, okay? Thank you. Anyway, next thing, the horse is great. And it's a big giant open world, so naturally having a steed makes traveling just a lot more fun, just a lot quicker and fun. You can, swap back and forth between going on foot, going on horse, pretty much any time, and the horse can jump a lot better, so it's just better for it's just a really fun, really cool mechanic, and it opens up a lot of cool opportunities in combat. Like, fighting things normally is fun, but then fighting things on horseback is fun. You get to kind of choose what you want for any given situation, and you're really fast on horseback, but you're not as good at defending yourself, so it's kind of like, oh, this big slow guy, better for the horse, these little guys, better for on foot. It's great. It doesn't just make the game easier. It's just another way to play sometimes. One small thing that's been a little bit, I don't even want to say frustrating, it's just been kind of a thing to deal with. It feels like just like the overall scaling of like getting stronger is really gradual. And because there are so many different ways to play and you need items for all these ways, it seems like I don't often find items that fit my style, so I go through like a really humongous amount of the game with like one sword, you know, just like some of my basic equipment, some of it from like the start of the game, because I literally just never find anything better. And I know you don't want to be overpowered. That's why they can't be throwing stuff at you all the time. All the games are probably kind of incremental like this, but I could use just a little bit more. A few more items that I could use, a little bit more of a bump when I'm leveling up or something. You know, you gain a lot of levels and it feels like you didn't really gain that many levels. I don't know. It's a minor thing though, and the further I go, you know, that's the thing about these games though, and you're like, oh man, I sure wish I could be more powerful. And then you're like, and you kill a guy and you're like, oh hey, what's this sword? Okay, everything's different now. This is incredible. So I'm sure it'll happen. Oh, and then just know I have been playing completely offline because I don't want any of that social stuff. I want to be alone in this world. I don't want the help. I don't want the messages, any of that. Just not my cup of tea. So I've not interacted with that at all. I just keep collecting like the 17 different items, fingers and rings and things that you use to summon players, all these combinations. It's funny. So to wrap things up, Elden Ring is one of the best games I've ever played. I'm saying that, and I know the game, I played it pretty recently, and I know like hype around a game's release sometimes it can really get to you and make you think like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to games. You know what I mean? Like it's that hype and then it kind of dies down over time. But at least in this moment, it is a purely magical experience. It is all of the things that I like about video games, like the most, rolled into one game and cranked up to 11. Like, it's the things that stick with me the most in games, that connect with me the most. It's all of them. Like, one of my biggest things with just, like, anything, especially, not, like, even just, like, the more games I play, the more I just want to explore a cool place. It's just the immersion factor of, like, going to a fantasy place that is not our place and just looking at stuff and pretending I'm there, and exploring and finding stuff, like just looking around and actually finding things that are cool and interesting. That's like everything. That's my number one gaming thing. And that's this game. And it does it better than any other game I've ever played. There are surprises everywhere. You don't know what you're gonna find. You're gonna turn a corner and find some massive place you didn't even know was there, or just a crazy enemy that you just didn't even know existed. Like, I'm gonna kind of continue a little bit that I did in my Breath of the Wild review, how Shadow of the Colossus started something. That was the first time I'd ever seen an environment that huge, that beautiful, that just magical, that I really wanted to explore, but there wasn't much to explore in that game. Then games like Oblivion and Skyrim, they really made a game out of it. Just, it's huge, you want to explore it, you find stuff. Breath of the Wild is the first game that really got there for me, that really hit on that just magical exploration, warm, fuzzy feeling, like I was really living in a different fantasy world. But now Elden Ring it's improved upon it drastically. It is everything I could want from exploration in a game. It is an environment that is every bit as magical as I could ever want, as engaging and filled with interesting things to actually find. That it's something special. And I don't know, maybe I will have to put it down for a while to let it process, to see if I at the moment I'm pretty, it's so good. It's so good. It's unbelievably cool. And it's really hard. So it's like a more recent thing in my life is wanting a challenge. I want a really good challenge. And it's that too. It's the magical place to explore and the super hard boss fights to do. And all of that combines to make for, yeah, one of the best games I've ever played. One of the most magical, incredible gaming experiences. One of the best worlds that I just want to be in and spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in. It really is something special. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I would really love to hear what you all think about the game, you know, whether you're a Souls-like veteran or a relative newcomer like me. So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go just, like, cry because of how good this game is. See you later.